What was that? What? What's that sound? Where? It's aliens and they're living in your town. Damn. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town. Are you scared of aliens?
Hello, weirdos. How's everybody doing out there in weirdo land? It's the Weird Whatever podcast. Hello, gentlemen.
What is going on?
What up?
I say gentlemen because we have no Vicky, we have no Ariel today. It is the man show.
It is the man show. It always gets weird when it's just the guys.
I think we talk more about our feelings, though.
I think we talk more about sex.
So I want to start off the podcast right away. Have you guys heard? Florida has been in the national news, especially South Florida. Beckett, you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. Denny's?
Yeah, I do know what you're talking
Denny's, play the clip.
immediately saw that, from my experience, this wasn't a meteor. This was a man-made object.
Sanford Manley says early Wednesday morning he was speculating about what people from Vero Beach to Boca Raton spotted across the sky. Many of you sent us pictures and videos. Others commented on our Facebook page on what appeared to be a fireball around 2 a.m.
Everybody this morning wanted to know, what is this coming through the atmosphere?
The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office also received 911 calls about the sighting.
911 emergency. Hi, this might sound really strange, but I just saw 7 UFO-like type of things fly through the sky.
Okay. Does that guy sound high to you?
I think it was like some sort of light.
Whoa. So do you call 911 if you see a UFO?
Yeah. If I legit think I see a UFO,
Yeah, for
100%.
sure.
What are they going to do, though?
I just want him to witness it so they don't think, I'm just making it up.
Arrest the aliens?
I mean, at least, address them.
You want to get it on record? Well, they do think they know what it was. Hey, Becca, I can't believe you haven't heard this.
I'm usually up on current events.
You were hearing all kind of stuff all over about South Florida. They're talking Boynton Beach. So this fire in the sky, people saw it all over Florida, from Jacksonville down to the Keys. Even parts of Tampa said they witnessed this in the sky, and they said it's nothing more than space debris, re-entry, a Chinese satellite. A Chinese
There's a satellite, I say.
a Chinese, I don't know why I said it like that. A Chinese satellite. It was launched in 2015. So they're saying that was a satellite from 2015 just crashing down?
I guess maybe it breaks from orbit, something hits it. Because, in space, things just float around.
It's not really a long time for a satellite to live if it just went up there 2015 and crashes out.
It must have gotten knocked out of orbit.
To me, though, that was 4 years ago. Just shit's going to be flying out of the sky from...
Well, so much like when people started colonizing in the States here, we used to just throw trash on the floor. It wasn't until they did anti-littering campaigns they got rid of all that. Same thing with space, man. You're like, it's so vast. Let's just throw our stuff out there. And then...
yeah, there is space trash. It's crazy.
Well,
yeah.
You're right, though. Everything that we throw away, it has to go somewhere. We just think it goes out in the dumpster and bye, it just magically disappears.
We just hide it.
It goes in the ocean and it becomes an island.
We're running out of places to put our shit.
Yeah, we are.
It's like if you have a really clean house because you just stuff everything in one closet.
You open it and it's
You
just
open it because everything falls out.
So I feel like some of my family members were hoarder lights. Mm-hmm. I got a whole theory about hoarders.
All right.
I feel like hoarders have a sense of depression that they're struggling with. Do you think
For sure.
Do you think there's a correlation to that?
Absolutely. I bet you could trace any irregular behavior to some sort of depression or mania.
Really? Any behavior?
Yeah. So, you can go the opposite, too. If you have too much joy, you could express a different style of emotion,
Do you trust?
I'd like to have that problem.
What's that? Too much joy?
Too much joy.
Have you ever met somebody who's always happy? They're never in a bad mood.
But you always wonder if it's depression fueling that. They have to tell themselves every day that they're happy. Otherwise,
hard to think
the
of someone like
demons.
that.
I know people like that.
Really?
I know people who are so overly positive that I get the feeling, and there's no proof.
No proof.
But I get the feeling as soon as they go home and sit on their couch, they bawl and they weep just to let it all out because nobody's that damn happy.
Right.
And I don't think they're sad in the conventional sense sad. They must have some underlying depression of something or just something you hold on to. Holding on to emotions can cause some very weird behavior in people.
I think this is going to sound hippie, but I think to feel really happy, you have to know what feeling really sad is. So
Absolutely.
If you're always happy, you're not appreciating it as much.
Well, that's the yin and the yang.
Right.
When was a Ryan Beckett at his saddest in his life?
Probably being cheated on.
Oh, not this shit again. Same girl?
No.
Different girl? How many times you been
Just
cheated?
like the first time you got
like,
cheated on?
It was like early dating, like high school stuff.
Early
like
dating cheating.
First or second girlfriend, like it makes it way more traumatic.
It does.
Oh, high school love.
You feel like you feel like your world's over.
Well, that's all you know.
It's all you know, man. No, I remember the first girl I really, really liked in high school. I was a freshman. And it was one of those weird things where we ended up trick-or-treating together. It was like the first time I was ever allowed to get freedom. So here I am in ninth grade Jaybird. And then there's this cheerleader named Lisa, an O Denny's. I just had such a crush on her the entire time, trick-or-treating with her. We were laughing. We're having a good time. We start dating Beckett. We end up doing a love journal. Do you know what a love journal is?
No, but I can think of what I think it is.
What do you think a love journal is?
You guys just like describe your feelings every day.
After each period, like, we'd meet up with each other, like, and hand each other the the love journal, and it'd be, I miss you. I think you look so pretty today, and then I'd hand it to her.
That's
and then,
amazing.
And then she'd write a note, and then you'd read it back later.
And it was, I remember when the bell would ring, and when I'd go meet her to get that love journal, the biggest amount of butterflies would be. I mean, it was the greatest thing.
Yeah.
I loved it. About 2 weeks in, did not like the bird no more. Wanted nothing to do with Jaybird. And I remember that was so devastating. Being 14, 15 years, that was my first heartache.
Yeah.
But you look back now, it's 2 weeks, Bird.
Well, each time one of those happens, you put up those walls.
Give me Denny's first time. A story that I had just told, Denny style.
Yeah, well, so like you guys say, the young love, you feel the highs really high, you feel the lows really low.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you first start dating, I mean, you get every emotion. You get jealousy, you get rage, because you don't know how to control those yet. You've never even had those. I'm like, why do I care if Zach is talking? You know, and it's like,
Zach is such a prick.
it's like, who cares? Like,
Zach is a good-looking prick.
Oh, he's rich. He pops his collar.
totally.
Yeah.
But that's what's cool about as you grow up, because each of those experiences hardens you a little bit, and then you protect yourself from those situations.
What was her name?
Oh, I mean, geez.
Who's the first one?
Well, so it's hard to say. So it all depends, because the first one for me was, I guess you could say because all right, so there's one in 5th grade, which was probably like the big one, but we were moving, and at that time, you know, I'm going to a new place, and she never expressed her emotions, and I never even thought about it. You know, I'm still kind of like, guys rule, girls drool, you know, but like you're starting to get the emotions in 5th grade of liking girls, and she had told me, and I like got insane puppy love for like 2 weeks.
She told you that she liked you.
Yeah.
Oh man,
And
that's huge.
That's like Wonder Years moments.
Oh,
right?
that's huge.
I
man.
told the boys, you know, I'm chilling with, we got our like troll dolls and shit, and like I'm just like, hey, so you know, what do you think? And they're all making fun of me, but like I had the feeling, so it was real weird.
So
But anyway,
they're making fun of you because she likes you.
yeah, because
Oh,
girls
man.
were still kind of weird at that time, and guys were
Haters?
like, yeah, they were haters. So it was a very confusing time. But anyhow, so I ended up moving 2 weeks later. So that's always the one that was just like, what if? But you know, it was your 6th grade, or
What
5th
was
grade,
her name?
5th grade. I don't even want to say. I mean, it doesn't really matter anymore. It's so long ago.
I gave a name. I gave you Lisa.
Yeah, I get it. I don't want to say it. I don't know.
I
It's
know.
like weird.
I'm totally.
It's weird.
I'm just busting your ball. All right, Becky, give us your story.
I had a 5th grade Stephanie, but I think this girl Lindsay Kazel that I
Damn, Beckett's giving.
Last name?
Why
I
don't you
won't
give
even
her-
say first name.
Yeah, why don't you give her a social security out there?
You want to know where she lives?
No.
no, she was my she was like the hotter senior girl when I was a sophomore in school. And it's amazing what a year older, 2 years older, like in grades when you're in high school, you're like, oh, she's the cool senior girl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys were together?
Yeah, but she totally like messed with my head.
Of course, Beckett's got to tell the story about how he was just a sophomore and he's hooking up with a hot senior. Oh, yeah. What a dick.
No, it wasn't fun. Trust me.
Got to watch those seniors.
She's playing on a different field, a different level.
If y'all
Totally.
want, if y'all want in the chat room, go ahead. Drop the name of the first person that broke your heart. I want to
Just tag him.
Yeah, I just want to see everyone's name. Mine was Lisa. Yours was
Lindsay.
and then Denny's gonna be a bitch.
No
Whatever.
name.
Whatever.
All right, let's get into some weird stuff here. Did you see this one story, Denny's? This one guy. So there's this old guy. He was sick, was at the hospital, and he was so thankful to the care that the nurses gave him. He brings in this cake to thank them. Well, it was his 18-year-old grandson's cake, and guess what? It had cannabis in it. So have you ever heard this term before? It says, the nurses were off their faces. Chewy, hey, bud.
You can probably see it on the Chewy cam.
If you could, bud, could you not play with your toy right now? It's a little distracting. The term off their faces.
I mean, is it the same as like off your rocker, off your dome?
We were so high, we were off our faces.
That's a weird expression. Nah.
Yeah, and I believe it was in England. I believe this all went down, and they had to do this whole entire investigation. The grandfather swears he had no idea that he got these people high. He was just trying to be a sweet old man.
That's so funny.
Amazing.
Have you ever had has anyone ever given you something and you didn't know it was laced?
No.
Really?
Oh, I think I'd be.
Yeah,
I'd be really
definitely.
pissed.
I was really pissed. Somebody did that to me. They gave me a brownie.
That's not cool.
And I didn't know that had weed in it. And not that I'm against weed brownies or anything.
Totally.
But
if you're unknown, that's
an
terrible.
intentional thing.
Yeah, for sure.
They deliberately gave me the brownie and didn't tell me anything. So an hour later or an hour and a half
like-
later, I swear to you, Beckett, I thought I was dying. I thought I was having an aneurysm or something.
Yeah, I've never liked those things.
Yeah, they hit you pretty hard.
Hard.
They hit you hard, especially when you don't know that you are eating a pot brownie.
So in those cases, you would think you're dying. You would be feeling symptoms of being sick. Otherwise, you would have no way of controlling. You'd be like, "What is happening?"
I did. I really did thought I was having a seizure or like an aneurysm.
So he did it and didn't tell you?
He didn't, and he thought
That's
it was
even worse. That's
he,
like
he
10
thought
times
it,
worse.
He thought it was funny, and then when I started freaking out, he told me, and I haven't spoke to the guy ever since.
Yeah, I think that's a fair response.
Imagine the first person who discovered, mushrooms that make you trip. You're like, man, I'm starving, and you're in the woods, and you eat a bunch, and all of a sudden you're in the woods just having
You're like,
this.
I saw God.
Yeah, I mean, you would be having spiritual experiences.
I think that's what happened with the Mayans. That's why they were building religious temples and stuff.
For sure.
They were definitely doing that kind of stuff.
Well,
without a doubt.
I do wonder. There's certain things where you talk about, licking a frog, and people get high
Yeah.
that way. How did it? What was the trial and error on something like that? Where are you just licking everything to see if you catch a high? So did something happen in the history of humanity where someone licked something like, whoa, that was amazing. All right, try licking that donkey's butthole. Like, you know what I mean? They just try all these different things to see what sticks and what doesn't.
So I imagine it started off with trial and error of humans just dying. Like they did something, they're like, well, we're not doing that again. And then it turned into designated people testing stuff to see if it could kill or not. And then teams dude, assistants of famous people have died just by being assistants of them from, either mercury poisoning or when they're first experiencing with lead metals and such, they get poisoned by that. None of the people knew that. And then once those scientists died, they're like, well, we can't use lead instruments like that anymore. We can't use mercury anymore. Like all that stuff, trial and error, I think.
Check out what the chat room is saying. Plushy the Purple Fox. First time I've ever listened to the podcast. This is definitely, in all caps, weird just listening to your guys' feelings.
It's somehow every time it's all dudes, we always talk feelings. It's the weirdest thing.
It becomes the view.
Yeah.
If it was the view, we all have to talk over each other right now. So say something. Say something.
What's
It'll
Chewy
be
up
like,
to
no,
today?
you can't ever understand anything they're saying.
Yes, you really can't. Here's an email I thought that was kind of interesting. This is from Melissa. Now, we've talked a bit about this before. I got my own personal opinion. She goes, hey, weird whatever, do you believe in loved ones sending signs through animals or objects? When my grandmother was sick a few years back, my mom and I were talking about what reminded us of her and what to look out for to know when she was trying to tell us when she was okay, basically looking for what to look out for. We came up with ducks and lizards. She loved and collected items with ducks and had this curly-tailed lizard that would sit on her patio that she named Elvis. After she passed away, there was a duck that went on her roof and wouldn't come down. When I got engaged, there was a curly-tailed lizard at work that kept running into my office and under my desk. Right before the wedding, on our way to rehearsal dinner, a family of ducks stopped us in the road. Now, as I'm 1 month away from having my first child, and after a stressful pregnancy and doctor appointment, another lizard ran into my office underneath my desk. I sit in a different office from the one I was at the first time it ran under my desk. I feel like it's my grandma telling me she's there and everything will be okay. What are your thoughts, Melissa? And I believe Melissa is the Melissa from our grilled cheese zombie video.
Oh, very cool.
Denny, what are your thoughts on that? Are animals giving us messages from our loved ones? And I don't want you to spare feelings here. I want you to
get it, I
your
get it.
honest opinion.
So in my experience, I would think that you're attaching an emotion or something. So say like your loved one loved octopuses. So every time now you think of octopus or you see an octopus, there's a significance behind it. So every time you see, if it's a bird, lizard, whatever the example be, every time you see it, it's going to spark that thought of it. So I think that could be misconstrued sometimes. But I mean, not to say that's a bad thing. What you want to do, all we have is memories. So you want to attach significance to things to remind you throughout the rest of your life.
So you are basically saying it's what you it's your own thoughts dictating your feelings. It's your own past. It's your own memories. There's nothing spiritual going on other than the fact that it's something that's a connection to you and your loved one.
Something you attach significance to.
Okay, Mr. Becky, what are your thoughts on this?
I think that each thing's its own soul. I don't know how I feel about reincarnating, but I think everyone has their own control. So I don't think that someone can take over another energy, whether that's a person or a dog.
Yeah, my whole thing's the red cardinal. I've got the red cardinal on my back, and it's kind of a weird thing with the red cardinal. My mom did not like red cardinals, but when my mom passed away, my dad had a very strong connection with red cardinals, and he told me all these tales about when you're missing somebody, and a red cardinal appears. We've talked about this story before. How the red cardinal is a sign that your loved one's watching over you. So. I kind of see what you're saying, Denny's. Could it be a little bit of both? Could it be your own memory, and could it be also a spiritual thing? Because there are times where, I tell that one story about where I was really, really depressed, and I'm talking to my sister who lived in Oregon about how I had seen a red cardinal, and then as I'm telling her the story, a red cardinal appears right in front of me. I mean, red cardinals are not that common to the point where I see them every day. I see a red cardinal maybe, I don't know, once every 4 or 5 months. Blue Jays I see a lot. Red cardinals, no.
I think if I had that experience, it would change my mind. You know
The
what I
one
mean?
that I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
exactly. I think if you experience that, like you're talking about, I think that would totally change my mind about something.
Yeah, I don't think the cardinal's my mom. I
Right.
just think maybe the moment.
It's like the universe.
Yeah, maybe the moment's presenting something to, and I get why one would need that in their life to get through a depression, to make them feel good, and I also get why someone would think you're crazy, not crazy, but
Yeah.
to combat that.
There could be a mysticism out there. That's what we're always speculating. Everybody. So anytime they even have terms for it with coincidences happening. How coincidence is that a coincidence or is that the fates?
That's what makes me think. When I phrase it like this, when something is too coincidental to be coincidental, you know what I mean? Like it's too crazy, like to think of that.
You're
the
right.
odds were that, and you're like, something's got to be greater power than
But
that.
we got life on this planet, so
Right.
I mean the odds are there.
The other thing too, I kind of have this belief now that we don't understand animals like we think we do. We're so arrogant with our understanding of animals. I get that we know certain things about them, but you don't know what's inside a dog's head.
So
you
true.
You don't know
Yeah.
what's going on with a whale. You don't know what birds are talking about in community. We don't. We just don't know that. And maybe there is something with the afterlife, and why is that theory so out there and all the other theories are not? It's just a cool theory to think about.
Totally.
I like it. So, Melissa, I say whatever keeps you feeling good and peaceful on this plane, go with it. If the animal thing makes you feel good and makes you feel like it's your grandma talking, then believe that.
And honestly, everything on this plane's so insane. You should technically be open to every possible scenario.
Well, everything's crazy until it becomes accepted. Like, oh, the world's round.
So we
go
accept-
to jail. Like we don't
Great
believe
point.
you.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, that guy's crazy until he's not.
Until they prove
and
it.
then he's a genius.
Yeah.
Well, we hide behind definitions. So
Right.
people, gravity is this, and that. Gravity explains A, B, and C. I get all that. Your definition explains how things are, but at the end of the day, nobody knows why all this is going on. Nobody really has an answer.
No
You have
idea.
theories. You can speculate. You can give your opinion. You can base it on religion. You can do it all, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, not your greatest scientist or your greatest religious leader knows what the shit's going on.
So true.
Yes.
That's what's so mind-blowing.
We're all just squabbling.
Here's a good email from Lori. I thought this was an interesting point of view. We were talking last week about how I had the opinion, if you are a heinous criminal, that when you murder somebody, and it's so proven that you did it, especially if it's, I mean, you're killing a child. You don't deserve the right to read books, watch TV, go on the internet. You get your 3 squares, you stay in a cell, and that's about it. That's your lot in life.
100%.
Here's her perspective. Last week, you guys talked about murderers never having any rights ever again. And again, we're talking about just the internet, all that kind of stuff, not the meals and all that. We're not asking for torture here. What do you all think about having these terrible people do something charitable instead of just rotting in a cell? What if they clean the streets and the beaches? What if they helped rescue hurt animals? What if they helped the homeless? Even better, what if they were forced to do all of the gross jobs everyone else hates doing? There's always something to be done. Instead of just having them rot away or put them to death, maybe there's something we can get out of these criminals. Just something to think about. Lori from Vero Beach. I'm going to throw it to you, Mr. Denny's. What are the pros and cons of having murderers outside cleaning up shit?
The cons is the cons. No, I'm just
Exactly.
kidding. So I think it's a great idea. We should do something productive with bad people. The problem is security. It's just how do you? I mean, if one of those escapes, then it ruins the whole thing.
I think you can also have somebody make the point where if you're going to have these prisoners do these awful, in quote, jobs, technically that still is jobs for somebody to keep that just trying to make an honest buck. And if you give them to the criminals, you're not going to, there's just less jobs for more people. Now, I don't know if that really would be a fight.
I think it's more of a punishment if you don't give them fulfilling things to do, right?
Yes.
You know, so it's more of a punishment to just be idle.
And they're not getting paid or anything.
Yeah, and I think there's enough people out there to, do crappy jobs, to your point. So I don't know.
Well, do you, okay, you're the judge right now, or they're the person in Congress. You get to sign a bill. It's all up to Beckett. If you sign it, murderers are now put to work doing shit no one else wants to do. Do you sign that bill or not?
I don't sign the bill. I don't put them to work.
You just let them sit.
Yeah, let them rot.
Congressman Denny's?
Well, so it depends. If you're trying to separate that they did a heinous crime and you're like, let them rot, you're like you want them to be punished.
Yeah.
That's fine. But if you want to try to make something productive out of something bad, I mean, yeah, you're right. You're taking jobs from people. It's a hurt. You can see why they have such a tough time at Congress.
What does the chat room think? What do you guys think? Should we put murderers to work? Sounds weird. Let us know.
I think they do some work.
Yeah,
in
they do chain
prison
gangs.
and stuff.
Chain gangs.
I'm talking about
Yeah, like, I see what you're
hardcore
saying.
murderers. Yeah, I mean, it's either between them rotting in prison or putting them to work. Let us know in the chat room.
I say let them work, man.
I hear you, but you let them work. Can you really trust the work that they're doing?
You're right.
And how do you force them to work?
Yeah. What's their my?
Oh, they're like, hey,
incentive?
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'll kill you. I don't. Yeah,
You're right. It'd be tough.
What are you gonna do?
I'm on death row. I don't give a shit. Yeah, I hear
What are you
ya.
gonna do? Whip me? Like,
Yeah, so you're right. So if you start doing that, now you're gonna have to get into like a bartering system
Yeah.
where they're gonna have to get. Yeah, you're right, Matt. Okay, I let them rot. For me, that's my vote. Congressman Byrd. Here is, why don't we go ahead and get into some Denny's random facts? Why don't you blow our minds, Denny's? If you are new to the podcast, Denny's gives us a bunch of his random facts. We grade them. Now, Vicky's not been here the last couple weeks. Our podcast is falling apart back here.
I think she's buying a house.
We're going to grade Mr. Denny's facts. Give it to us.
So I guess this random fact, just to prove that humans really haven't changed that much over the last 4,000 years or so. There's an old Sumerian clay tablet, which is known for holding the oldest known piece of music. It's an old drinking song. It includes lyrics such as, life exists only for a short while, and time demands a toll. While you live, you should shine and have no grief at all. It's a drinking song just saying, forget your woes and remember you're going to die one day. Is that funny? From 4,000 years ago.
That's great.
So they're doing the same
They're
shit,
singing about the same stuff.
talking about the same shit we're talking about.
Them and Bieber.
So it really all just comes down to why are we here? And I mean, that's
We
all,
just never really got that answer, and we continue on.
we're still it's all distractions, baby.
It's all distractions. And just a cool little fun fact for anyone. We've passed it, but you experience your billionth second of life during your 31st year of being alive. When you hit 31, somewhere in the time frame between 31 and 32, you'll hit your 1 billionth second of being alive.
Okay.
1 billionth second?
Billionth.
By the way,
It sounds like it would come quicker than that, wouldn't you think?
I'm not a math guy, Beckett.
Well, so a billion is a million, right? Right. So, I mean, that's such an astronomical number.
That is crazy to think about that.
A on your first fact, C on your second.
I threw some numbers in there. I get it. Here's one for the bird. Sylvester Stallone kept the two turtles, Cuff and Link, from the 1976 film Rocky, and they're still alive today at the age of 44.
I'm sorry. I could not hear a thing.
'Cause,
I'm trying to determine. Can y'all let me know in the chat room? Can you hear Chewy's squeaking toy? And is it distracting?
I think they could definitely hear
Because
it.
I'm having a tough time with it. I'm not going to lie. I love it.
It's cool. Here, all right, so check this out. There's a term called benign masochism. It's the reason why humans enjoy spicy foods, depressing songs, and roller coasters.
Oh, that's me. What is it called?
It's called benign masochism.
That's amazing.
Well, so what it is humans initially have negative experiences that the body or brain falsely interprets as threatening. So that's where the excitement comes from. But the minute you realize that it's controlled and your brain goes back to knowing that it's not a harmful thing, your body then enjoys it. It's a weird thing, weird psychosis in our mind called benign masochism.
Oh, that's so interesting. I'm definitely Googling that after
Yeah,
the
yeah. There's a
podcast.
whole Wikipedia page about it. But
Wow.
yeah, we kind of enjoy the torture when we know we're not actually, it's not detrimental to our health.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool thing. It's weird how the human brain works. Once we figure out a problem, it's almost like why magic's so
Creepy?
Well, it's almost like a defense mechanism. You know, if you think
Absolutely.
about it, right? It's like some people like the idea of like looking over the edge of like a high thing. Like they have no interest in jumping.
absolutely.
But like I like to walk to the edge, metaphorically speaking, is interesting for some people.
Speaking of walking to the edge, we got to talk to Beckett about his ayahuasca trip.
Yeah.
Well, you could argue that that's a sense of benign masochism because you're
Totally.
opening yourself up to the questions, the thoughts that you've always had.
Well, benign masochism, that's interesting to me because I like spicy foods. I like the struggle, like to do an Ironman or to put myself through, another degree in school, or to like my vacations aren't usually laying on the beach with a pina colada. Like I'll go do some crazy weird shit,
Or
like
go to the museum.
climb a mountain or do something weird.
Do you like pina coladas?
We were just talking about this
I
the
think
other
they're
day.
kind of gross. They remind me of suntan lotion. I feel like I'm drinking lotion.
It does remind me of drinking suntan lotion. I think I'm good for like one.
Yes.
Because it makes me it's like I'm in the space of vacation. Because I would never ever drink a pina colada ever.
It's only
unless
a
I'm in the
vacation.
Bahamas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you like pina colada, get caught in the rain.
That was another song you guys played all the time on the radio.
Who did?
The radio station. What you remember we were talking about songs
Did
that they go on the radio all the time.
Did you just say you guys? Did you just blame me?
Big radio over here.
Did you blame me for overplaying a 1970s song that I had nothing to do with? I'm not all radio, Beckett.
But it was one of those top 40 songs that just kept playing.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
No,
Oh, yeah.
that song was always played on top 40, and so was the one I remember that was overkilled on the radio was "You and Me Used to Be Together."
Oh, that's true.
Don't speak. Oh.
And they did that for Adele too.
Four
Adele,
Non Blondes.
Adele was on the radio all the time.
That Four Non Blondes song, the I
25 years that's
So
what's been
good.
playing.
But it's on all the
Oh,
time,
gosh,
Beckett.
I'm
RMF
so
plays it
tired of
out.
it.
I swear to, I feel like they forgot to take it out of the system at WRMF.
Lisa Loeb.
I can't stand that song. we interviewed Lisa Loeb, and she wasn't that fun to interview.
No?
she's kind of mean to me.
Oh, I gotta Google that.
It's nowhere to be found. All right, let's get back on track, boys.
So the ayahuasca experience was something I was debating if I was gonna, publicize that or tell people, like even in my family or friends. But the more I researched it, it's something that, because I've never really done more than pot in my life. I was like the nerdy jock. So for me to like think about doing something that was so exploratory in that sense was a big step for me. But DMT was made legal in the United States, went to the Supreme Court, but the context or the qualifiers has to be around a religious ceremony.
DMT is the content.
DMT is the active ingredient. So, we were talking about, substances and how it's crazy, like licking toads and stuff. There's millions of plants, millions and billions of plant life and species in the Amazon. So ancient Mayans, like people in Peru and South America, they discovered that 2 plants on their own do nothing. But when they're mixed together, the combination of the 2 actually makes you be able to absorb the DMT experience. So what went to this church out in West Florida, and what the director said, he goes, listen, basically this is analogous to a police officer knocking on your subconscious, kicking open the door, and taking a flashlight and shining it all around. And it's a 5-hour ceremony, and it's freaking intense.
Did you
Freaking
discover
intense.
something about yourself?
So what's interesting is
What's keeping Beckett back?
it's a vine, and what the guy said is, he goes, if you're more of a creative artistic, you have more of a visual experience, and if you're left brain, more analytical, you'll have more of that like voice in your head, like your subconscious. And when I first like actually went into it, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but my first grade self appeared to me. Like the actual yearbook picture was vivid, and that kid was like, what happened? Like, when did you disconnect from me? Like, when did you bury me with like ego and insecurity and all that stuff? And I was like, holy shit. And it was so clear. And
Did you get the answer? How old were you when did you start losing your innocent like charm? That's a great question for all of us when you become jaded.
I've heard someone that did it. He was sober for years and he didn't want to do the experience, and he went into it kind of scared that he was going to like it and it was going to trigger, but he ended up doing it because actually DMT is used to take people off alcohol and addictive things. And his description of it was the most sober I've ever felt, because it strips you from all that ego and you think so clearly. And that's what I think what is amazing, but it's not fun.
Did you get sick?
Yeah, you throw up, like you don't feel well at all. So it's hard. It's like it's hard work, and it's like an ugly mirror. Like you see the good, bad, and ugly.
In 15 seconds, give me what you truly learned about yourself.
Hold
on, 5, 4, and go.
I think that I learned about myself that I sometimes lead with ego and not my actual spirit. And if you lead by spirit, people, whether it's a client, a relationship, an employee, they're going to follow you more than if you make decisions and lead yourself with ego.
Okay, give me an example on how you would lead with ego versus spirit. Let's say with the business dealing. I'm a new client, and show me an example of ego versus spirit, how you would approach me.
So being in sales, it would be like taking that client and it would be a short-term thing to maybe sell something to someone that wasn't necessarily in their best interest, but it was going to be a big sale for me. It was going to be money in my pocket, or it was going to be good PR because of what the sale was. So in the short term, that would be an ego-driven decision that would serve me as a sugar high. It would be a short-term thing. Where if I actually I'm like, this isn't the right place for the person, I'm not going to sell them something and for another year. But long term, and I think overall,
because it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
So basically, spirit versus ego is the right thing to do.
Yeah. If you lead with that, because if I'm 6'1" and I'm standing there and I have an intention of ego, I'm really basically standing there. And even if it's subconsciously 4 foot tall, but if you lead with spirit and you're 6'1", you're actually looking like you're 7 feet tall in terms of the eyes of people. People that it may not be the best looking guy, but girls are just like extremely attracted to him. I think it's that guy that is leading very authentic life. Like whether it's a politician or someone you're attracted to, people that may be really good looking, but are a really shitty person. You're like, oh, like it makes him ugly, if that makes sense.
An authentic politician? What the hell is that?
That's an oxymoron.
Just kidding. Actually, I'm really not.
I like the concept of living an authentic life.
I love it. I think it's. I think that's awesome. I think at the end of the day, we're all trying to find that, right?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to come back from it?
5 hours. We drove back that night. I got home at 3:00 in the morning.
Were you worn out?
How quick did
beat up?
How quick did you get back into your ego life?
Well, going into you can't watch porn, you can't use social media, you can't.
How quick did you start?
I think it was a few days, like slowly integrate, but like part of it's just being aware of it. Like I was telling Denny's before the podcast, he's like, "Oh, did it change you?" I go, "No, it just kind of makes you more clear as to what the right and wrong things are to do. Like you can know what not to eat in terms of junk food and getting in shape. It's just making the decision to do that." So I think what the experience does is it kind of makes you more aware of maybe some wrong ways of your paradigm. And then coming back is like, what do you do about it?
I love it.
Yeah, very cool.
Good stuff. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any more random facts, Denny's?
Yeah, we can jump back into one. This is more of just a.
Random facts are designed to be throughout the entire podcast, baby.
So how would you handle this? You're just leaving work, walking home, and you see a poster up and a new gathering for your own funeral, and you're like, "What the heck?" So you go there and you look, and they're holding a funeral, and there's a body in the coffin that looks just like you, and they're having a funeral for you, and then everyone starts freaking out. Well, in 2012, that happened to a man in Brazil. What happened was somebody went in late night and attacked one of the employees who looked just like him, and his brother went and identified it as him. He was out of town for a day, came back, and they had a funeral for him. Isn't that weird?
It's crazy.
Seems made
How would
up.
that 2012? That was the only reason I was like, well, they should have their stuff together by then.
Seems made up, Denny's.
Get out of here! It was on like one of those like Guardian websites.
Oh yeah, you gotta watch some of those websites, man.
Sometimes.
I've brought in so much shit.
They
in the
have-
KVJ guys, lizard people are real. They've got proof. There's a Twilight Zone episode back in the day about that where a guy is he's dead at his funeral and he actually becomes alive and people can't believe it. Holy shit!
Would you be able to attend your own funeral?
I would just be nervous that no one would show up. Like, son of a bitch, man.
But that's what I meant. Like, you would take anything that come at you. Either nobody shows up, people talk mad trash about you, people praise you. It could go any way.
If you were to die and you had a funeral, how do you think people would react? Do you think people would go to your funeral, and do you think people would trash you or praise you?
I think they would attend. I doubt too many people would trash me.
I think a ton of people would go to yours, and I think they would all speak very highly of you. I
Well,
think you
well,
ain't
thank
got
you.
nothing to worry about, kid.
But why would they would go? But why would they would go to someone's funeral just to trash someone? You know what I mean?
Oh my God. You clearly don't have anybody Italian in your family. I have absolutely heard people trash. It's crazy. Someone will be, I mean, just days buried.
Oh, jeez.
And you'll be at the service. And there's just certain relatives, they have no, they don't even realize they're doing it, but they have no filter and they can't help it. They cannot help to be negative. They got to bring up everything they didn't like about that person and their living life.
Brutal.
And they'll try to mask it with a compliment after. Oh, but blah 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 blah. Oh, she was so annoying, and she was this, and she was that, but she was a good cook, though.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we experienced that when Ann passed away. We had one relative call just to tell me and my family that they weren't going to go to the funeral, and that they, the reasons why they could not attend Ann's funeral because Ann did A, B, and C. What the hell are you calling me for? I don't wanna-
brutal.
It was absolutely brutal. So yeah, answer your question. People do talk trash at funerals.
That's intense.
It's intense, man. They need to go on an ayahuasca trip.
100%. That's ego.
Look at that. Yeah, that inner self.
Totally.
Ego brings us all down, man. It's every terrible thing that I've done or bad situation I've gotten myself into where I've gotten myself in a pickle or depression or anxiety. For the most part, usually it's my ego messing things up. I would say more on depression than anxiety because I have a bit of situational anxiety. I don't think is the ego.
When I got back from my ceremony 2 days later, when I was like trying to think about actionable things, I called a girlfriend that I hadn't spoken to in 3 years. I left her in the airport, and I just called her, and she answered the phone. She goes, "Hello?" I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm good." And I said, "Hey, I just wanted to apologize. Like, I know, like, we left it, like..."
Ayahuasca back
Damn.
I was like, I know, like, we left it off weird, but, like, we have mutual friends, and honestly, it was probably my ego that was hedging myself to, like, sucking it up and calling you.
Probably like, what is
like,
this?
You just came back from a trip, didn't you? Some kind of
Totally
spirit-
blindsided her. And I could tell, like, there was silence on the other end. She was processing it. She goes, "Wow. Thank you." And we talked for like 10 minutes and blah, blah, blah. And she texted me 2 hours after the call. She goes, "Hey, like, thanks again for calling. Like, I really appreciate it." Da, da, da. And then I was like, man, that was so easy. Like, that was so easy. And it was like a closed feedback loop because I'm not one to tie something off. And
Yeah.
I did that in that scenario.
It was easy, Beckett, because it went your way, and she was cool about it. Now, if she would have,
That's a good point.
If she would have said, "Why the shit are you calling me? I don't want take your new age apology and wipe your dick." Like, she could say whatever,
Totally. And this is going to sound hippie as a response to that because I thought about that. Because I didn't think about what if she answers? What if I get her voicemail? What am I going to say? That would have been an ego thing. I've been like, hey, what would if she doesn't answer, if she's a bitch to me or whatever. I didn't even think about that. Like it was more if she has that response, then that's like her problem. But the fact that I did that and I reached out and I said that, like, that had no ego. So my ego would have been bruised if she did that. And not to say like I wouldn't feel a certain way, but that's kind of more how my thought process was on it. Like if she's a bitch about it, that's her problem, not mine.
I remember when I first got into Wayne Dyer. He's a spiritual teacher. He used to live down here, but one of my all-time favorites. And trying to kind of basically what you're talking about, trying to just be open and kind of shed some of because he talked a lot about the ego. And if you are, because someone did email me and said they were slightly confused about all of our ego talk last week. There's a lot of literature about it,
Totally,
and what the ego is. But I remember kind of like what you're talking about, where I was reading all these spiritual scriptures and listening to all of these audiobooks, and start going to the list. I think maybe I'll call this person and try to smooth shit out. And the very first one went really well. The second one, not so much. And I'm like, maybe I'll take a break from doing this bullshit.
That's interesting.
But it's very, when you first get into that kind of stuff, I think to keep and to sustain that type of level that you're talking about. You're being very spiritual right now. You're calling people. You're asking for forgiveness. You're apologizing. Are you able to sustain that type of mentality, or do the trappings of the world bring back the ego? Because it can happen real easy.
Totally.
Career, a relationship, all of that stuff can bring you back into being that more shallow self you don't want to be.
100%. It's a working task, and I would say it's analogous to like going to the gym as a healthy pattern, right? Like you can say I got busy with work, or I got sick, or I had an injury, and you stop consistently going to the gym. I think it's the same way of being in touch with your spiritual self and in your leading with the right intentions and with your spirit rather than ego. It's like becoming consistent with a good behavior or habit, if that makes sense. It's tough.
Yeah.
Denny's piggyback on this.
What, the struggles with the ego? Everybody struggles with them.
Just see if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Give
It's such a vast topic.
Give us another random fact.
You want a random
Yeah,
fact?
give us another one.
I spatted off like 2 while Chewy was chewing. I only
Yeah.
pulled a couple.
Oh, don't worry about it.
All right.
We'll move on. Got an email. Here's Miles from Orlando. Okay, so it says, "Dear Jaybird, WTF. I just went to Taco Bell and they told me they ran out of tortillas. What the hell is happening to planet Earth? Do you know there's a tortilla shortage with Taco Bell right now? You must address this issue and let the world know what the hell's going on. Outrage in Orlando." Yeah, Denny's, if you don't mind, can you play that Taco Bell clip, please?
Taco Bell might be in for some tortilla trouble. People magazine reports the fast food giant is suffering from a shortage of the item. The chain wouldn't specify how many or which restaurants are affected, only saying some Taco Bell restaurants. Going on to note that they are hard at work trying to replenish the tortillas. Fox News was able to obtain a statement saying an issue with the company's supplier is to blame. But several posts on Reddit say the issue may be affecting restaurants nationwide, with one person claiming to be an employee saying that they don't know how long the shortage will last for, adding that it's specifically the 10-inch tortillas that are no longer available, which means menu items involving burritos, quesadillas, grillers, and quesaritos may not be available. But another Reddit post claims the company has a goal of July 28th to fix the tortilla shortage.
When did Reddit become this credible news source? You know what Reddit is, right?
Oh, yeah.
People in their house just typing crazy shit
crazy
up.
shit.
That's a news
Just
report.
people upvoting news
That was like
reports.
a diligent news report.
I really cannot believe major news corporations, they cite Twitter
Yeah.
responses and Reddit posts as real. You're not even going out and getting people's words. You're lifting shit from the internet, which is insane to me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's how it's gone now to make
Lazy
it quicker.
ass journalism.
It's all about speed though now. Everybody wants to be the first one.
The first one wrong,
First one right.
but sometimes they're not though.
Absolutely, and that's the side effect of trying to be the first.
Oh gosh, it's so annoying though. It really is annoying.
It makes it tough to get your news, at least to get reliable news.
Well, nobody believes anything anymore.
Well, that's the point, yeah.
Because there's too many sources. It used to just be 3 nightly news sources.
And then there are people that are legit trolls that make shit up just to fuck with people.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's reasons why people have such a difference of opinion nowadays. Because people are getting their information from so many different places, and it's being spun or made up or twisted or whatever in different ways. and when you just had NBC, ABC News, like once in a while, then the populace is really kind of listening to a consistent message,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Yahoo News is one of the worst offenders. You will go to Yahoo News and they'll be like, Twitter was ablaze with their opinions. They could not believe what was going on. Just like this comment right here. And you look on there and this person's got 4 followers, 3, it's like, how is this, you're citing that as your main person. That's the expert now.
Right.
Am I off on this?
Yeah.
So I see it pulling clips for the show and stuff. There'll be a story, right? It'll be the same story, copied and pasted from the one source on like 8 different websites. So I'm looking for a clip, and I'm literally grabbing the same story each time. So they're not even doing any research now. Everybody's just reposting stories.
Oh, you ever see those news clips where it's a montage of everybody in the country
Doing the same.
the same exact story, and it's the same exact lead-in. So it'll be like, oh, they'll have like a corny joke to lead it off with. Oh, moon's over my Hemi with
Yeah.
the moon.
Yeah.
And they'll just have a clip. Moon's over my Hemi.
Every market.
Moon's over my no one's even writing their own news. They're pulling it and they're just regurgitating whatever the AP's telling
Yeah,
them
it's
to
lazy,
say.
lazy
Oh,
journalism.
it's so lazy.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody wants to have it and have it first, because so each place, like say you go to this source for your news, source A, you go to source B, I go to source C. So when I see the news on source C that I trust, then I think it's real. If I see it on A or B, I'm like, it's got to be fake
Right.
until I can see it on my own source. So everybody has their own source, but it's the same article. It's
Right.
all the same article. And you'll look, like you said, there'll be 5 followers on that page. That means that was just written to fuel people up.
And I'm not down to anybody who has less followers. That's not what this is about. You're taking a major story and you're surrounding the story around this Twitter follower who you don't even know if they're real or not. You're not going out to the street.
Or if they're-
you're not vetting these people.
Or if they're a balanced person.
Yeah.
You know nothing about them.
You see something on that could be a dummy account for all you know. It's insane.
That's the scary stuff. That's why you see the same story. It's crazy. It's clearly just bots posting this stuff on different web sources.
Yeah, well, then look how the Russian thing affected like supposedly all the American populace because they're swaying public decision based on fake accounts, right?
You're right.
And they'll go in and like just like drop a stick of dynamite in rooms, like let's bring up and say something really inflammatory about gun control, just to like rile people up and cause arguments.
Oh, I mean the things that people do just to rile people up is insane.
Well, so I mean, in this, could fall under conspiracy theory, but they say that the lobbyists now are going into the forums and setting off that dynamite. They're the ones intentionally saying things to cause a certain side to look bad.
Yeah,
That's their intention.
It's propaganda.
It's all propaganda, but we're being fooled on digital format, and they're not doing it the traditional way they used to.
Well, even now, I'll see arguments on Facebook and on Twitter, and someone will go, oh, yeah, well, here's the source. And I see who they're citing. I'm like, oh, my gosh, that's the worst publication ever. It's fodder. It's fake.
Yeah, National Enquirer said it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my, I mean, it can be about any kind of subject. I'm seeing people debate this kind of stuff and really thinking these publications are legit.
Oh, yeah.
That they're really doing investigative journalism, which they're not.
Right.
It's tough. It's intentionally made to be confusing, so you can't decide.
But Miles, it's really tough about Taco Bell and the tortillas. So thanks for
That's a
saying-
crazy story.
tortilla. There's a tortilla shortage. I remember, and I won't say the name of the place, but I went to a steak place, and sure as shit, I asked for a steak, and they go, "Sorry, sir, we're out of steak." I'm like, "Wow,
That's
right.
tough.
Yeah.
That's a devastating blow for that
I guess
restaurant.
give me the chicken." You guys want to do a round of Would You Rather?
Sure.
Yeah.
We have to probably wrap it up soon. Denny's got an appearance today. Where are you going to be at? If the weirdos want to come out and support you, where are you going to be?
Southern 441 Nissan, right there off of Southern Boulevard and 441. You can stop on by.
yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it's real fun. You come out. It's nice and warm. Check out some cars. They got a 4th of July
What do they do?
sale.
Do they give like food or beers or stuff?
Yeah, they do grill outs. They got a 4th of July sale going on.
Yeah,
you can
Beckett-
check it out later.
They give out beers at the car dealership.
I don't know about that.
Sided drive.
No, they do not
They
do
got
that.
soda pop.
Yeah, soda pop. All right, would you rather? We'll start off with an easy one. Would you rather, I think Becca can speak on this, be cheated on or cheat on someone?
Ooh.
I'd rather be cheated on.
I'd rather be cheated on.
It's tough.
I would want to cheat. I
I-
feel like a dick.
I'll sit and eat ice cream and watch rom-coms.
I'd rather be the sad one. I
too.
have a tough time being the. Anytime I do something jerky, I have more of a tough time with that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, that actually is a really interesting to think about because that really kind of says what kind of person you are. I think that, this is going to sound hippie, but my ego would want to choose.
Yeah,
exactly.
Ayahuasca Beckett. Something tells me we're going to have Ayahuasca Beckett for the next couple of podcasts.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I predict about 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks, we'll have Sex Robot Beckett.
Oh, yeah. He's still integrating.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess being cheated on now is easier. But when I was my younger self, it literally put me on the floor for a week.
I'm not over here
Oh, yeah.
wanting to get cheated
Yeah,
on.
it's awful.
I'm just saying between the two, I'd rather get. I think I could deal with getting cheated on better than cheating on
Me
somebody.
too.
I don't think most guys can say that.
Yeah,
I think you're unique in that opinion.
We're pretty macho, man.
you should see me him and talk about cars. I mean, we're very macho.
Yeah.
And you said same thing, Denny's. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll take the pain. Write a song about it.
I love it.
It's that masochism you were
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah. Sometimes you want to feel the real.
Would you rather accidentally send the dirtiest sext message to everyone in your phone,
Oh my god.
along with a dong pic with your face showing, or accidentally upload a video to all of your social media of you wiping right after you've gone to the bathroom?
Oh my gosh.
This is a tough one.
Oh.
I mean, of course, obviously, the one where you're wiping, it's the worst, most terrible position. Your face is in it. You're
I'll do wiping.
You're contorting in a terrible.
I'll do wiping. They'll make a GIF out of it.
Oh, it's so rough, man. You could argue
Awful.
maybe the sex thing. You could.
Yeah, but
twist
who
that.
knows what nasty stuff you're going to be typing. you
Yeah,
know?
the thing that you.
It's the most carnal.
Yeah, think about the
text
worst
ever.
thing you've ever sent to where you're like, oh my gosh, I'd be so embarrassed if anyone ever saw it.
Definitely, it's got to be wiping because at least you can't go to jail for that.
Well, what are you doing, Beckett?
What? Everyone in your phone?
I mean, okay, for the sake of the game, 18 and older.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still go wiping.
I go wiping.
Me too, because at least that's something like somebody films you
But
doing
keep
it.
in mind, it is the worst.
I get it.
The worst
That's
video.
such a fear,
You fall
too.
over, like your elbow goes in the toilet.
the toilet paper falls off and you end up getting it on your hand.
I mean, you're a meme, you're a GIF, whatever. You are all over the net for at least 20 years.
No
Yeah.
PR is bad PR.
That's such a lie.
You're a celebrity.
I know. I would hit
You're
up.
a celebrity.
I'd hit up a toilet paper company.
There is absolutely bad PR that people don't want.
For sure. There's big three that you don't want.
Yeah.
Frederick from $1 Million Listing used to do gay porn, and he's now like one of the most popular people on thing. Like so, like in like Paris Hilton.
But
and
yeah,
but people got enjoyment.
But
from
that's
that.
that's an example of good publicity. If Denny's all of a sudden gets publicity about a crime he didn't commit and he's getting all this fucking hate thrown at him, that's not good publicity. That's terrible publicity. It's not good for him. It's not good for the show. It's not good for anything.
This is gonna sound weird, but I think we talked about Jeffrey Dahmer and like those serial killers. They actually people hate them. 99.9% of the population hates them. But there's a sect of girls.
They got infamy from it.
The girls that are obsessed with them. After he was a serial killer, I guarantee there's more girls that wanted to have sex with him than before.
Harvey Weinstein. There's no good publicity right now. You've got
That's true.
something like that.
Yeah.
And I think he's guilty as hell, and I think he's a pig. But you can't say anything that's the publicity he's getting is good
That
publicity.
one's hard to spin.
And Cosby.
There's
true.
There's no way to spin that.
That's
yeah.
true.
That's
Well, so
bad.
those are the bad things.
like
Murder.
Michael Jackson. All of that stuff was not good publicity.
That's true.
In fact, if anything, it tore down his legacy.
That's true.
Yeah?
That's true. I do think that a lot of things like that.
Agreed.
Like back in the day, you couldn't. You would never think you could do something like porn and become famous. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I think there's a lot of things out there that you can spin and turn it your way, but not everything. But
Right.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
But there are some crimes against humanity like that are
For sure.
rape and stuff like that.
Unforgivable.
So
Yeah,
those are
exactly.
in the big three. You
Yeah,
can't. Those
yeah,
are,
sure.
Yeah, for sure.
but yeah, a lot of stuff can be spun to a
Like
positive.
you could be the guy that fell during singing the national anthem of a random baseball game and go viral, and you could say like that's the worst, most embarrassing
what's
thing
weird
ever.
about now.
And now all of a sudden, like you write a book and you're famous and you're on Letterman.
You could spin that. Okay, for example, if you had a bad drug problem and let's say you had a massive cocaine problem, Beckett, and it's publicized and everyone in the town knows. Oh my gosh, but something like that, you could spin that in a
100%.
way to be a very good positive.
Your
for
comeback,
you.
yep.
Your comeback.
And there's a lot of people that come back. America loves the comeback. Look at Robert Downey Jr. He started off very troubled early. Same with Drew Barrymore.
So I think one of the things that is really interesting, I've listened to Tony Robbins talk about this, but you have
He's going through something too.
Yeah, he is going through
some
shit.
I mean, he's going through like a hashtag
Yeah.
Me Too thing. You
Yeah.
could argue that's terrible. Like, how is he going to? I mean, you know what I mean?
That's true.
He's denying it. Yeah, your example is actually the example.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
But-
Tony. Just I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
But just so people know listening, so they're not confused, Tony Robbins, the motivational speaker, has had a few hashtag Me Too, at least cases brought up in the last couple of months.
Totally.
That's why
Yeah.
your example is.
Yeah. I just read about it. But something that could be what you perceive as your limiting belief, he calls BS, your belief system. Like some of the more famous, successful people took what was going to be their weakness and made it their strength. I'll give you an example. Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he got out of bodybuilding, he was going and he just had one movie. I forgot the name of it, but it tanked. It was horrible. And the journalist was like, well, what are you going to do now? He's going to be the highest paid actor in all of Hollywood. And the journalist said, I tried not to laugh because he just tried to get in. He's like awkwardly huge dude with a weird Austrian accent and a big gap in his tooth. He's like, well, how are you going to do that? He's like, well, I'm just going to do the same thing as bodybuilding and like live into this like belief system of mine. So he's like, you can't be a movie actor. Like you talk funny, you're big, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But if you think when Terminator 2 came out, he became the highest paid actor of all time. And those things that an agent could have told him, like, you'll never make it in Hollywood because of those things, his accent and his build became his strong suit.
No, we know
As an actor, right? Like,
we
that's
know you want to
amazing.
sleep with Schwarzenegger. We know.
You brought him up last time.
Yeah, you
Did I?
Yeah, you love
You love
it.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I do like Arnold
I get it, man.
Schwarzenegger.
He's got the ultimate
The
story.
Governor?
Yeah.
So I think this is a great comment by Zeke in the chat room, and this is true. We're talking about how a lot of people aren't trusting certain publications, certain news outlets. That's why I just saw his comment. Sorry, hold on, I lost it. The good news is many independent journalists and YouTube channels have started to seek out the truth and bring back true journalism. And I just saw a special on something where they had a forum of people that said, "Would you trust major news outlets? Do you trust print media? What do you trust the most?" They all said, it was across the board. They all said the only things they trust with 100% is social media clippings from people they personally know. For example, let's say Beckett goes down to a rally and he's filming something that's truly going down and he uploads it. He's like, "Bird, look at this, Denny's. I'm literally right here and this just happened." People are trusting that more because there's no agenda there. We know you.
And they know the person.
Now, a lot of people who don't know Beckett may not trust you, but within our little circle, we would trust your piece over, and that's what people are starting to trust more than anything.
Right.
Yeah, I get all my news from like that type of stuff, not necessarily from big news.
Keep in mind that was a small sample size of that forum, but I don't know, man. I mean, you're saying that you would trust it more. You're probably saying you would trust it more.
Yeah. Well, so I never really was big into the news, but like without private, or indie news rather.
Yeah.
I've always been more of that and more about the counter news than the main news.
Right.
So you would trust social media friends' videos more.
So I would trust friends. Yeah,
Yeah.
like so just people
Friends,
I know,
yeah,
because
yeah.
then I know that person. So if I know they saw something that goes against what they typically would say, I'd be like, well, clearly they saw something, because otherwise they would not act this way.
if I was on social media, go, "Oh my God, blah blah blah," you would say, "Bird clearly is going to."
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same with like a Beckett. If Beckett had a ghost encounter, I would probably believe it because I know Beckett's, not necessarily attuned to that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And NPR, I think NPR is like it's publicly
But there's
funded and it's so dry and like
What happens though is there's a point where a format becomes popular and then
Right.
it becomes the meta, and then you're in trouble again because then no longer it's credible.
Nothing against NPR, but NPR has absolutely
big.
gotten so massive now. Everybody listens to NPR now. For young kids, old people, it's a thing.
It's good.
That being said,
it is.
it's still
got-
it's good right now, but it has the ability to be corrupted.
Denny's is completely. I'm not saying that it is, but when anything gets popular, anytime there's a gain of something, you run the risk of it being
It's true.
possibly
It
corrupt.
sucks.
All right, last question. Because I know you have to get going.
Yeah.
What time's your thing?
It's at 12.
Oh, you know what? We need to wrap it up then.
You can do, so what is this? Would you rather?
Last would you rather question. Would you rather have your complete internet history released to the public? Everything you've ever looked up. I mean, everything, Beckett. Or have all of your exes and anyone you have ever wronged in your life collaborate on a tell-all book trashing you?
Oh, gosh.
What do you pick?
I think I go internet history.
I go internet history because I look up. I get no qualms saying I look up weird stuff. I've looked up a ton of weird stuff.
You just blame it on the podcast.
Well, I mean, part of that is for the podcast and for the KVJ show. But the other thing is I look at weird stuff. I have no qualms about that.
Yeah. And I mean, through the history, I mean, I've looked up like everything on the internet, I think, at this point.
Porn.
Yo, definitely. Yeah, dude, especially when porn first came out, there was, when internet first came out, I feel like
looked at it all.
I remember back then it would take forever to like download the pages. You'd have to put it on discs and stuff. It was such a to-do, but people were willing to put that work in. Now it's so easily accessible.
Becky, what do you go with?
Internet history for sure.
Okay,
yeah, same here.
All right, same here. All right, and we'll just go ahead and finish it out then. Would you rather die with your friends around you or your family around you? Now, you can't claim family/friend. If you have one of those, they're out of the mix. So it's either your family or your friends around you. Who would you rather have?
Family.
Your family?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say family across the board.
Really?
Yeah.
So that means
just because that's a big moment for them.
Me and Beckett are out.
Yeah, I get it, but I think you guys could bounce back from it.
Jen is out.
I hear you.
Blood related only.
I hear you.
Jen is can't see a dog.
Oh, I think when you're married, it's tough.
For the sake of this game.
For the sake of this game, I get it.
Related.
She's in the chat room.
Probably talking trash. I get it.
I'm just messing with you. Well, guys, thank you for listening. We understand that the podcast has been upside down. We know Vicky hasn't been here a couple of weeks, and no Ariel today. We are doing our best to get our phone line in there. Thank you for our patience, or your patience. We are going to try to make an announcement on what our new schedule is going to be. We're thinking about changing up the schedule to make it accommodate better for everybody. So send us your emails, send us your questions. We love you all, and Bigfoot is real.
What was that? What's that sound? It's aliens and they're living in your town. They have arrived. They're all around. So many aliens living in your town. Are you scared of aliens? Well, you should be, because aliens want to probe around in your booty. Aliens are here to take our resources, steal our water and eat all of our horses. Aliens are nothing like the movie E.T. The movie Independence Day is how it will be. To all the victims who have been kidnapped, Snack Pack dedicates this track. What was that? What's that sound? It's aliens and they're living in your town. They have arrived. They're all around. So many aliens living in your town.